freaking... I hate that lane. I don't know why I was sitting in it. That's like my least favorite position to be on is on this road in that lane, because these spots on the right side, everybody wants to park in them, and they have diagonal spots along the side of the road. So when you try to park in them, you have to back in because they're angled towards the direction that the traffic is going. And so you block the entire lane whenever you want to park there. And I think without fail, every time I've come down this road, which is almost all the time because I work on this road, that lane gets backed up because of people trying to park in spots there. And sometimes I get caught in it when I'm not really thinking. But anyways, that's not the topic for the day. Actually, you know what? Let's make this a more interesting route. It'll take longer, but it'll be a little more enjoyable than just straight highway riding all the way back home. Unless I gotta be stuck behind idiots like this that go 2 miles an hour. Topic for the day is, are leader bikes useless? Man, I missed the light because of that dude. Jake the Garden Snake, another moto vlogger, he put out a video today, I think today, saying that owning a leader bike was a useless thing. It was useless to have a leader bike as the motorcycle that you ride. And one of the things he got at was that if you want a sport bike, you should just get a 600, because anything extra on a leader bike, anything more that a leader bike offers, is just going to get you into legal trouble, and you're never going to make use of the power that a leader bike can make unless you're just romping it on the highway just to get up to 160, 170, whatever it may be. And in that case, you're just putting yourself in danger and breaking the law. Valid point. I commented on the video and I said that I greatly enjoy my R1 more than the R6 that I had. So I have an R1 now. It's a 2009 Yamaha R1. I bought it in June of 2013. So I've had it a little over a year and a half now. Before that, I had a 2009 R6, 600cc bike. This one's 1000cc. And I love my R6. I probably wouldn't have gotten rid of it in a short amount of time if it hadn't been stolen, but that's a different topic. I spent time with my R6, and now I've had an R1 for a while, and I'm of the opinion that the R1 is the better bike for me. And I want to emphasize that it's my opinion. That, like, you have your opinion, you have the things that you want out of a motorcycle, and you might pick a different bike for different reasons, and that's fine. I support you in whatever bike you want to buy. So people ask me all the time, like, what's a good beginner bike? I have this bike now, I want to get a sport bike, should I go to a 600 or should I get a leader bike? And I give some opinion on that, but not too much, because it's not my decision to make, and it's really what you want out of the bike. But coming back to the topic, is a leader bike useless? And I want to quick point out 2 videos that I've already done, right here and right here over on the right hand of the screen. I'm going over a bump, so I can't point exactly where I'll end up putting those videos, but they're on the screen right now. One is the video that I made when I first got my R1, explaining why I bought an R1. So that'll give you some information on why I got an R1. The other video was a response video I made to a guy in here in Austin. He's named the AK-47s. Kind of had some beef going on at the time, but we're cool now. That was a response video I made talking about leader bikes and why I didn't think it was such a big deal for someone to have one. So across those 2 videos, I've pretty much given my opinion on them, but I kind of wanted to round it up into this one video and tell you guys, because I know there's a lot of people that haven't seen those videos, and there's a lot of people that are asking me about my opinion after I commented on Jake's video, including Jake himself. He said you should go out and make a make a reply video to this because I think it'd be good, and obviously you've got an opinion on it, which I do, because I had an R6 and I have an R1 now, and I prefer the R1. So, cutting to the chase, now that I've talked about this for 5 minutes or whatever it's been so far, and haven't actually said anything, why do I think an R1 isn't useless? Because that is my opinion. I don't think a leader bike is a useless bike to have. I commented and said that there is a lot more reasons that I liked my R1 more than an R6 beyond just horsepower and top speed numbers, because that's the main points that Jake was making in his video, was that you're not going to get anything out of an R1, or I keep saying R1, but that's because that's what I have. You're not going to get anything out of a leader bike that you can't get out of a 600, except for getting yourself into more danger and more legal trouble. And while that may be true, I don't think it has as big of an impact as he made it out to be. Because if you look at it this way, if you go out with the intention of trying to max out an R6, and I say R6 because that's what I have, if you go out with the intention of maxing out a 600, and you go out with the intent of maxing out a leader bike, yes, the leader bike is going to end up going faster, but the trouble you're going to be in is not going to be any different. There's no difference between you being at 130 and you being at 160 to the law or to your bodily health. If you go down at 130 versus 160, both are going to end up badly. If you go that fast and you get clocked by a cop that decides to stop you and you're not going to run away, which you could do on either bike, you're going to be in the exact same predicament. Like, there's no difference between you going 60 over the speed limit and you going 90 over the speed limit. You're going to get jailed, or he's going to give you whatever ticket he wants, and it's going to be the same thing. So from that standpoint, I don't think it really matters from that argument. Why do I like the R1 more? Here's some things you got to know about a 600. It's lighter than a leader bike. It is slower. It doesn't have as much low-end power. I gotta get this turn here. And some of these points are good and some of them are bad, depending on what type of riding you're gonna do. But for me, they work out perfectly for the type of riding that I mostly do on my bike. And everyone likes to make the argument that if you're not using your vehicle for the purpose that it was built for, then you shouldn't own that bike. And that's just a completely bogus argument. And I'm not saying Jake made this argument, but that's a completely bogus argument for someone to make. Gosh, your brakes, man. Because that's not the only factor in the reason that someone buys anything. You don't buy it only for practical purposes. And if anyone says that they only buy every single thing they own with 100% practical purpose in mind, they're lying. Because everyone has something that they've gotten just because they like it, and it may not have 100% practicality. But even on that argument, for me, a leader bike is practical because it's heavier, it's got low-end power, and that makes a difference for me. When I rode the R6, you would noticeably get blown around on the highway because of trucks and because of crosswinds. That doesn't happen on a leader bike, at least on my R1. Now, I know the R1 isn't the lightest leader bike out there, but it's not a pig. It's not packing on hundreds of pounds more than every other bike. I don't have that issue on this. And as someone who, yes, as Jake pointed out, cruises 90% of the time that I ride, that makes a difference for me. I like not having to worry and fight the wind. It's planted. It's a much more comfortable bike to ride. That brings me to another point. I fit much better on the R1 than I did on my R6. If you go back and you look at my reveal video for my R6 and you look at my reveal video for my R1, there is a huge difference. I look like a giant on the R6 and I look normal on the R1. You're much more cramped up, especially for someone like me. I'm 6'2", I'm over 200 pounds. Being on an R6 is a lot more uncomfortable than being on the R1. I can take this thing on a long ride and not worry about getting uncomfortable. The seat is more comfortable. It's not as, I'm not sitting as aggressively as the R1 or the R6. And I know this is a lot of this argument, or a lot of my points are between an R1 and an R6, but they're gonna match up pretty well to other 600s and other leader bikes. For me, as a big guy, a leader bike is just a more comfortable bike to be on. And yes, I may not take this thing and use it 100% of the time on the track. And I may not use it 100% time out cruising canyon roads, twisties all over the place, and doing drag races on the drag strip. But I'm not required to. Like, if I want to have a leader bike and not use it for those particular purposes 100% of the time, then I shouldn't have to. It's my choice, it's my money, I bought it with my own money, and if I want to do that, I can. Now, some people might say that, you know, you're not making use of it, and 100% of the time, no, I'm not using it for those purposes. But not everything that I own has to be used for the same purpose all the time that it's used. I have taken this to a track day. I went to the Circuit of the Americas this past year. I had a lot of fun. I was able to use the R1 at the limit, not at the limit, but at my limit, and use its capabilities on a track. I take it out onto canyon roads that are literally a few miles away from where I live and go do those rides on the weekend. I make use of my bike for how it was made. This guy is going so freaking slow. I'm sorry you guys have to deal with this. Now he's braking for no particular purpose. I don't know what this guy is doing. On the phone. People. Don't use your phones in the car. It's not that hard. It really isn't. So yes, I may not be using it on a track at 150 plus and riding it like a MotoGP rider all the time, but I don't have to. I do some of the times. I do use it on track and I do use it on fun roads, but I don't have to. If I used it 0% of the time, it still wouldn't matter because I don't have to. If I like the bike for how it is and I use it how I want to use it, that's all the reason I need to use it how I use it. But I do have reasons besides just liking the bike, which I do. I really like the bike. I like how it looks more than any of the 600s, but that doesn't matter. That's just one of my reasons. I like how it rides comfort-wise, like I already stated. It's heavier so it's easier to cruise on the highway. It doesn't get blown around. The seating is easier for me than on a 600 as a big guy. And that makes me think of another point, which is that a lot of people like to point out that a 600 is going to dip into turns a lot easier than a leader bike. You're right, it will. But I think people overvalue or over-reason, I don't even know that that's a word, but they overestimate how much it is able to. You look at MotoGP riders, they're dipping those things over just fine, no? Like, it doesn't have a problem dipping into turns. And as someone who's big, I'm a big guy, I work out, I have the strength to dip this thing into turns. Like, I don't have an issue with it. It's not a problem. And the nicer thing is that because of this thing's weight, it's much more predictable in the way it moves. A 600 is a lot more twitchy, both in how it moves just because of its lightness and the way that the throttle responds. I believe that the throttle tube on an R6 is 1/6 turn. for 0 to 100%, and an R1 is 1/5. And that can be changed. Like you can get a different throttle tube. But even besides the way the throttle tube is, an R6, 600, whatever, it's a much more twitchy bike. It's a lot more. I don't want to use the word sensitive because I don't really feel like that's the right word. But the power band is a lot smoother and a lot more predictable on a liter bike. The R1 has great low-end torque. It makes great power right away. I don't have to pump this thing up to 7,000 plus RPM just to get it to make the power that I need it to make. It's making power all the time. Like, it has the torque for it, and I like that. I like not having to bleed this thing out just to cruise on the highway or just to make some power, which is what you're gonna get on a 600. Like, if you're cruising on the highway on a 600, that thing will be screaming just because the RPMs are going to be higher than it will be on a liter bike. And as someone who, yes, cruises a lot of the time on the highway, that makes a difference to me, and that's why I like it more. It's not only horsepower and top speed numbers that change a 600, that's the difference between a 600 and a liter bike. There are so many other things that go into the decision that someone makes when they buy a bike. And I want to point something out here, and that's the fact that Jake is older than me. He's just kind of stepping in to the age where his decisions are more risk averse. I think he's almost 30. He may have just turned 30. I'm 24. I'm about to turn 25. Obviously, I'm younger. I may want to take more risks, but it's not even about that. Like, the things that matter to me most, and the reasons that I like this bike, aren't really even related to how risky it is. It's just, I like being on this bike more. It's more satisfying. When I cruise, my ears aren't bleeding. A 600 feels much more on edge. It feels like it's just pumping with adrenaline when you push it more towards its limit. And that might be fun for some people in a certain sense. But if I just want to go out for an easy ride, I don't want my bike to feel like it's on edge. Like, this thing it's consistent. It's comfortable. I know what it's gonna do. If I want to go faster, I can go faster, and that increase in power is predictable. It's just nice to be on, and it's hard to explain without you actually riding the bike yourself and riding both bikes and having that experience. But if you did and you spent some quality time with both bikes, you'd understand what I'm saying. I wouldn't say that you would agree with me, and those reasons would make you choose the same bike as me. You have your own reasons, and you have your own choices that you make, and there are things that are more or less important to you when you buy a bike. But you would understand the points that I'm making. And I want to finish this off by saying I have the utmost respect for Jake. I value his opinion. He's had an R1, he's had an R6, and everyone has the right to their own opinion. But I just wanted to take this video to explain to you guys why I don't think the only reason to have a liter bike is for its horsepower and top speed. And if you're not using that in a safe environment and 100% of the time, that there's no reason to have a liter bike. I just don't agree with that. That's not how I feel about them. So let me know your opinion. I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. So please make a response video. Leave a comment. Bash me wherever. Support me if you support my opinions and you agree with me. I don't really care which side you're on. I'm not going to be mad. I really like hearing your guys' opinions. I just don't want this to be a flame war where people are like, liter bikes suck, 600 suck, and that's all they leave in the comments. And I know people are going to do that just because I said don't do it, but I really think that having real supported opinions on both sides will help other people make their choices if they haven't ridden both bikes and they're thinking about getting one or the other. There's just a lot of things you have to think about. And this vlog has gone on far longer than I think that it should. Again, this is the third time that I've made a video talking about liter bikes and why I have them, or why I have one, and what I think about them. I'm sure I'll end up making another one next year. But if you want to check those out, again, they're in the description. Go ahead and check Jake out and watch his video. I'll put that in the description as well. I know a lot of other people have made their own videos about this topic as well. So go ahead and do your own YouTube search for it. But that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate you watching the video. I appreciate everyone who subscribes. If you haven't subscribed already and you're interested in getting notified of my future videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Motonosity on all of them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Also, P.S. I know people if this video gets popular and people find this in the future, they're gonna leave comments saying, why aren't you riding the bike fast in this video? Well, because I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna ride this thing all out when I'm trying to present my points. If you want to see some of that, I've got some of that on my channel elsewhere. But this is not the time for it. So sorry. Plus a 600 can't sound like this. Or like this. Yeah, I'm sure if you go back on my videos from like a year ago, you can see you can see times me going down this road and this construction is here. Damn. You know what? We're just gonna move up here. Bow, 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 bow.